Namo Buddhaya, everyone. Can everyone hear me? So we will begin the program by going for refuge and then taking the precepts. So everyone chant with me. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. To observe the 5 precepts, repeat after me. I observe the precept of
I observe the precept of
abstaining from killing beings.
abstaining from killing beings.
I observe the precept of
I observe the precept of
abstaining from stealing.
abstaining from stealing.
I observe the precept of
I observe the precept of
abstaining from sexual misconduct.
abstaining from sexual misconduct.
I observe the precept of
I observe the precept of
abstaining from telling lies.
abstaining from telling lies.
I observe the precept of
I observe the precept of
abstaining from taking
abstaining from taking
intoxicating drinks and drugs
intoxicating drinks and drugs
with the refuge of the noble triple gem.
with the refuge of the noble triple gem.
I observe these precepts
I observe these precepts
for happiness in this life,
for happiness in this life,
for rebirth in heaven,
for rebirth in heaven,
to escape from the sufferings of samsara.
to escape from the sufferings of samsara.
May it help me and be a blessing.
May it help me and be a blessing.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So today, everyone, so far we finished Satipatthana, we've done dependent origination, and uh, a few months ago, actually almost 6 months ago, we covered the very, very basics of meditation or the foundations, what kind of qualities someone needs to become someone who's good at meditating. And when we covered those, we covered that thoroughly. But since there's lots of new people joining, I thought we would cover those things again because that's the most important part. The foundation or the fundamentals of meditation are far more important than uh, than just trying to be good at meditation. If someone has the foundations, those qualities that someone needs, then they'll become a skilled meditator. No one needs to wish to become a skilled meditator. When someone creates a cause, then the effect will come. So last week, do you guys remember what we covered? We covered the Four Noble Truths. That's the most basic, the most core and key principle in the Buddhist teachings, which is that there are these noble truths in everyone's lives. And the Buddha teaches a path to realizing those Four Noble Truths. So someone in the Buddha's teachings meditates not just to enjoy a comfortable life in this life, That means not just to become someone who has peace in their life, who has calm in their life, but they meditate or they develop their minds to become someone who's capable of realizing the Four Noble Truths. Now, I'm going to share screens and take today's lesson as a very, very fundamental, basic starting point for someone who is looking to develop their minds. Can you guys see my screen? So we talked about these basic Four Noble Truths, which are, there's a noble truth of suffering, which means we go through all kinds of suffering in our lives. We go through aging, sickness, death, losing loved ones and loved things, having to deal with things we don't like, all kinds of ideas of suffering. And then we talked about the origin of suffering, which means craving is the reason we suffer. Then we said this end of craving, if the cause of craving is, if the cause of suffering is craving, then the end of craving should be getting rid of, the end of suffering should be getting rid of craving. And then we talked about this, which is there's a path to getting rid of suffering, or there's a path, and we can say this in multiple ways. There's a path to end suffering, the path to end birth, aging, I should say aging, sickness, and death, the path to remove defilements, the path to Nibbana, or the Noble Eightfold Path. So if someone follows this path, we said, what do they get rid of? They get rid of suffering, they get rid of birth, aging, sickness, and death. They remove defilements. Defilements means anger, jealousy, ill will. They reach Nibbana because they follow the Noble Eightfold Path. So then someone who wants to get rid of all this suffering, what do they have to do? They have to follow the Noble Eightfold Path. Then the Buddha teaches, when someone wants to develop this Noble Eightfold Path, they need to develop mindfulness. And we discussed this last time. And the Buddha says, before someone develops mindfulness, he has to develop these two qualities. He has to put away, or he has to set aside covetousness, or that means greed, and he has to set aside conflicts for the world. That means any sort of anger or any sort of resentment he has towards things. So with these two qualities that he develops, then he can be someone who develops mindfulness. So then we said we're going to talk about today, really, how do we live without fighting, and how do we live without getting into conflicts? Now, if someone can answer this, if someone can solve this question, then your life will become peaceful. You won't have any problems. You won't have problems at work. You won't have problems at home. You won't have problems at school. No matter where you are, if you know the answer to this question, your life becomes much, much easy, much, much more easy. So the Buddha's teachings teaches a path to escape suffering. And as a side benefit, as an extra benefit, your life in this life also becomes easy, also becomes peaceful, also becomes calm. So remember, when we learn the Buddha's teachings, it's aimed towards the goal, and that goal is realizing these four. And as an extra benefit, we also get a peaceful life in this existence. Does that make sense? So there's two main things happening here. We get a good life in this world, and we get a goal of achieving Nibbana. And we said, what's the path to do that? The path is the Noble Eightfold Path. So if someone follows that, then they can achieve all of these. But that seems very, very difficult. How do we do that? So in one sutta, in Majjhima Nikaya, the Supreme Buddha teaches, monks, what is noble right concentration? That means what is Samma Samadhi? And what does Samma Samadhi need? So this is the Noble Eightfold Path. That's right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. And don't worry, you don't need to know all of this. I'm gonna explain this simply. So don't get scared when you see this. But if someone follows this path, then they're following the path to getting rid of suffering, aging, sickness, death, craving, defilements, all these things. Then the Buddha asks monks, then how does someone achieve this? Then the Buddha says, in order to come to Samma Samadhi, what does he need as a support? He needs these 7. He needs right view, he needs right intention, he needs right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, and right mindfulness. If he can achieve the first 7, then he can come to the last one. Does that part make sense? So that's what's explained in this sutta, which is, in order to achieve Samma Samadhi, he needs these 7. So then, based on this discourse, based on this teaching, we can come to the conclusion that if someone has Samma Samadhi, then what does that mean? It means he has these 7. If someone has Samma Samadhi, then we can understand he has these 7. Does that make sense? Or is that confusing? Sela, does that make sense? So if someone has Samma Samadhi, then it means he has these 7 based on this discourse. Then we can understand if somewhere else there's a path leading to Samma Samadhi, then he is also developing these 7. And we find that path in another discourse by the Buddha, where it teaches if someone wants Samma Samadhi or right concentration, if they want concentration, then they have to come to right view first, Samma Ditti. If someone wants to come to right view, they need virtuous behavior first. That means sila. Someone needs to practice virtue in order to come to right view. If someone wants to come to right view, then they need to practice or fulfill something called the factor of training, or we say 𝗙𝗍 Dhamma. And if someone wants to fulfill that, they need the factor of proper conduct. If they want to fulfill that, they need to come to respect and obedience. Now let's look at this and say we don't have right concentration. So let's cross this out. And we don't have right view. Let's say we don't have sila either. Let's say all of us are killing animals. We're all telling lies. We're all drinking. So we don't have sila either. And then we have no idea what this is. So we don't have that either. So then as a starting point, we can take 2 things. We can come to respect and obedience, and then we can come to this. So this is a very, very, very basic. Anyone in the world can practice this starting point. Why? There's no mention of sila here yet. There's no complicated words. All we're talking about is 2 things. One word, one sentence we know, respect and obedience. And the other one is something that gets fulfilled when someone has respect and obedience. So then let's try to understand how do we practice these 2. So we can give the definition that if someone has respect and obedience, the factor of proper conduct means they have bodily acts of loving kindness. That means by body, they do things that are kind. They have verbal acts of loving kindness, and they have mental acts of loving kindness. Now you might have a question. So I ask, how did you come to that conclusion? I don't understand. But I'm going to show you. So just understand that this idea is if someone has respect and obedience, then just keep this idea in mind. That means he gets loving kindness. He can do things with metta by body, speech, and mind. Then to understand how we came to this conclusion, we look at another discourse taught by the Buddha. And this is called in Majjhima Nikaya, Chula Gosingha Sutta. It's the 31st sutta in Majjhima Nikaya. And it says, the Supreme Buddha one day comes to where 3 monks are living in a forest. And after he comes there, he asks one of the monks, named Anuruddha, Venerable Anuruddha, I hope that you're all living happily with mutual appreciation, without fighting, blending like milk and water. Why does he say blending like milk and water? What happens when you put milk and water together? Can you say this is milk, this is water? You can't separate them. So they're so cohesive, or they're so together that the Buddha says, I hope you're living in that way. and that you're viewing each other. That means you're looking at each other with kindly eyes. You're not looking at each other with hatred. So this is the same question that we asked at the beginning. We asked, how do we live without fighting and without getting into conflicts? And this is the same question the Buddha is asking. I hope, Anuruddha, you're living without fighting and getting into conflicts. This is the same question. Does that make sense? Then Venerable Anuruddha says, surely, Supreme Buddha, we're living happily. We're living with mutual appreciation. We're living without fighting. We're blending like milk and water and viewing each other with kindly eyes. So then he solved the question. He solved the answer. Venerable Anuruddha Maharatangwas has solved this problem. And then the Buddha asks, but Anuruddha, how do you live like that? How do you live looking at each other with kindly eyes without fighting, without getting angry at each other? How do you do that? And then this is the answer, okay? This is the answer to the problem. Then he answers, Supreme Buddha, this is how I think. I think it is a gain for me. It is a great gain for me that I am living with such companions in the holy life. That means it's a great benefit for me that I have people like this to practice the Dhamma with. So that's how he thinks. What does he think? It's such a good thing for me to have people like this so I can practice the Dhamma. And then he says, I do bodily acts of loving kindness towards these monks, whether they're openly and privately. That means whether they're here or not, I do bodily acts of loving kindness. I do verbal acts of loving kindness, whether they're here or not. And I do mental acts of loving kindness, whether they're there or not. So what is he practicing? He's practicing metta, whether that person or whether those people are there or not. That's the answer he gives. And then he says, I think this way as well. Why should I not set aside what I wish to do and do what they wish to do? So then he sets aside what he wants to do and does what they want to do. So this is him practicing, how do you say, he doesn't say, I am the only one who's right. This is the only way. This is how we should live. This is how we should practice. What does he do? He keeps loving kindness by body, speech, and mind, whether they're there or not. And he sets aside what he wants to do. And he always thinks what? That it's a great benefit for me that I have people like this. So when he thinks like this, that's how he lives without getting angry, with mutual appreciation, without fighting, blending like milk and water, viewing each other with kindly eyes. So then if someone is able to do this, then they can live without fighting, without getting angry. That's the answer. But this answer seems very, very difficult. How do we do that? That seems very, very hard. If I could do that, then I wouldn't get angry in the first place. Then the Supreme Buddha asks another important question. Then the Supreme Buddha asks, Anuruddha, I hope that you're all living diligent, ardent, and resolute. And now here I wanted to take this chance to show you why you actually need someone to teach this Dhamma. So imagine you read this by yourself. Can you give an actual definition to these three words? What does this sentence mean? I read this sentence and I thought, what on earth? I understand, I know the meaning of these three words, but how do you give a definition to this? What does this even mean? And that is where the benefit of having a teacher or someone, a Kalyana Mitta, comes in place, because this is the Sinhala translation of this. And the Sinhala translation of that says in English, these three words can be replaced with, good Anuruddha, I hope that you all live heedful, with an effort to abandon defilements and practice the Dhamma without any heed to your life. That means giving up your life, you practice the Dhamma. So you practice the Dhamma heedfully, you have effort to abandon bad qualities, and you practice the Dhamma while giving up your life. That means even if someone comes and says, you have to stop practicing the Dhamma or I'll kill you, this person says, kill me then. He doesn't give up practicing the Dhamma. So that's what he asked. That's what the Supreme Buddha is asking now. How are you living, being heedful? How are you abandoning defilements? And how are you practicing the Dhamma with such effort? Now, we're not even close to this, but let's see what answer he gives. Venerable Anuruddha says, yeah, we do that. We practice the Dhamma in this way. We're heedful, we have effort to abandon defilements, and we practice the Dhamma without any care about our lives. Then the Supreme Buddha asks, how do you do that? And this is the most amazing part. Look at his answer. You might think he says he sits down cross-legged and meditates for 8 hours. Or he goes to the forest and sits under a tree for a long time. Or just something very, very crazy. But look at his answer. It's so simple. Supreme Buddha, the answer is whichever of us returns first from the village. That means in the Buddha's time, it wasn't like today. We don't just go to an alms hall and people bring us food nowadays. But in the Buddha's time, you have to take your bowl and you have to go stand in front of a house. And the people there might give you food or they might not give you food. So when you go there, it's not as easy as you think. You have to stand there. And then the people, if they see you, they come and maybe offer something. Sometimes they say, "Sayang, we didn't cook anything yet. It's too early." Sometimes a dog comes and pulls on your robe. Sometimes they just look at you and walk away. Then you go to the next house and you stand there. In this way, you have to go begging for food. So they say whoever comes back from getting food, they start preparing the seats. They set out water for drinking, for washing. Why? Because in the Buddhist time, there's no taps. You can't just open a tap and get water. So they have to get water from a lake and then place it in pots and then use that water for drinking, for wash. So they would have separate drinking water. They would have separate washing water. And then this person also puts the leftover waste bucket in place. So what's he doing? He sets some seeds out, he sets some water out, and he creates the hall, or like he sets up the place where they're going to eat. Then he says, whoever comes last, so whoever comes first does all these things. Whoever comes last eats any of the leftover food if he wants to, and then he throws away the leftovers where there's no greenery, or drops it into water where there's no life. And then he puts away the seeds, he puts away the water, and he cleans up the place. So he puts away the refuse bucket after washing it. So it's very important, after washing it, she doesn't just take it and say, tomorrow we're going to use this again. Might as well just leave it like this. He cleans it. And then he sweeps the place. He sweeps the area. And then look what he says. Whoever notices that the pots of water for drinking or washing are empty, or for the latrine, that means the water for the washroom is empty, then he takes care of them. So it's not, no, this is his job, he has to do it. It's whoever sees that they're empty does it. And then what does he do? If they're too heavy for him, if he can't lift those water buckets by himself, then he calls someone else using a hand signal. But even then, we don't speak. Even then, we don't say useless things. But every 5 days, we sit together all night discussing the Dhamma. Now, what is this? What is this answer to? The question was, how do you live heedful? How do you live with effort, abandoning defilements? And how do you practice the Dhamma while giving up your life? And what's the answer? He's talking about setting up the place where they eat, sweeping the place, setting up water, and doing all these things. So how does this answer match the question? That's what we have to try to understand. Then the Supreme Buddha says, good. He says, sadhu sadhu Anuruddha. The Supreme Buddha says, good. And when you live like this, so the Supreme Buddha accepts that answer. He doesn't say, what are you talking about, Anuruddha? What about meditation? What about developing your minds? What are you talking about? He doesn't say that. He says, so this is sadhu sadhu Anuruddha. Very good, Anuruddha. And when you live in this way, diligent, meaning heedful, ardent, meaning with an effort to abandon defilements and giving up your life to practice the Dhamma, when you live that way, did you get any superhuman state? a distinction of knowledge and vision worthy of the noble ones. He's asking, did you get any superhuman state? Did you get any meditative state that was that's beyond a normal person? And the answer is, why not Supreme Buddha? Why wouldn't I? Of course I did. Of course we did. And he goes on to explain how whenever they want, without secluded from sensual pleasures, they enter the first dhyana, the second dhyana, third dhyana, fourth dhyana, all the way up to Nirodha, the very last Nirodha Samapatti. So he goes all the way down to the highest level of meditation. And it explains the rest in the sutta, but that's not important to us because none of us are developing jhanas. What we want is the foundation. How does someone get there? And what's the foundation here? He's practicing something that doesn't make sense to us. He's practicing sweeping the hall, cleaning up the place, setting out water. And he's getting this. How does that make sense? So what is he doing? He's preparing seats. Let's look at the sutta by learning what he's doing. He prepared seats. He set out water for drinking. He put out the refuse bucket. He cleaned the leftovers. He put away the water and seats. He sweeps, fills water when it's empty, helps lift heavy items, maintains silence, and discusses the Dhamma. What are all these things? All these things are loving kindness by body, speech, and mind. All of these things are that. So then we come to understand, why does he practice? Why does he do all these things? If he didn't respect and have obedience for his fellow monks, would he ever practice that? And since he has respect and obedience, what does he do? He can practice the factor of proper conduct, which is, we said, loving kindness by body, speech, and mind. So he's fulfilling these two factors. And as he fulfills these two factors, so he has this factor, he has this factor, and then even though there's no mention in the sutra of any of these, we understand he came to Samma Samadhi. So that means this one was being fulfilled, this one was being fulfilled, and this one was being fulfilled. So as he fulfilled these first two things, he was able to come to right concentration. That's what he says. Why? Because he asked, after you live like this, the Supreme Buddha asked, after you live in this way, did you get any superhuman state? And he says, yeah, we have Samma Samadhi. We have the first jhana, the second jhana, the fourth, the third, fourth, all the way to Nirodha Samapatti. So from this discourse, we can understand and we can give the definition that when someone has respect and obedience, he is able to fulfill the factor of proper conduct, meaning bodily acts of loving kindness, verbal acts of loving kindness, and mental acts of loving kindness. And in order to do this, don't forget how he thinks. Why? Because do you remember his first answer? His first answer was, before he comes there, he thinks, it's a gain for me that I have people like this to practice the Dhamma with. He does acts of loving kindness openly and privately, and he thinks, why should I not set aside what I want to do and do what they want to do? So these three ideas are very, very important. This is the foundation for someone to practice meditation. If someone doesn't have these qualities, then they can't go any further. Why? They can't get rid of conflicts and covetousness for the world. Does that make sense? Because what happens? So it says here, whoever notices that the water is empty, he takes care of them. What normally happens to us? Hey, this is empty. This is that person's job. Why didn't he fill it again? And then we get angry. And then what happens? There's a conflict. So then we're at a point in our life where we can't go forward. So then the reason is we don't have this foundation. What is the foundation? Thinking that it's important, it's a gain for me that I have people like this to practice the Dhamma with. Practicing loving kindness, whether the people are there or not. Some people talk good about others, and as soon as they leave, they talk bad about them. So that's not maintaining verbal loving kindness, whether they're there or not. And then a lot of people have a hard time with this. Why should I not set aside what I wish to do and do what they want to do? So I want you to remember that these three concepts, these three foundations are very, very important for someone. Why? Because only then can someone be heedful, have effort to abandon defilements, and practice the Dhamma without any care for their life. So then we come to understanding, how do we come here? So does anyone have any questions up to now? Is there any part that's confusing? Maybe they don't understand. You can raise your hand or type it in the chat. Someone asked, Swayamasa, what if we are not living with such people? How can we think that they are a benefit? And what if they don't set out to practice the Dhamma? And then someone asks, Swayamasa says, why shouldn't I set aside what I want to do and do what they want to do? But what if what they want to do is not in line with the Dhamma? They're exerting us and preventing us from practicing the Dhamma. Very fair, good questions. Both of them are good questions, and they're fair questions. And let's answer the first one. We'll answer both of these questions. But as I explain this, you will understand what the answers are, okay? And if at the end you still don't get the answer, then let me know. So now I want you to imagine this scenario. I want you guys to picture your own mother for a moment. Picture your own mom, whether in a past scenario or a moment you can remember her, and try to think, does it give me a pleasant feeling or an unpleasant feeling? When you think about your mom, what kind of feeling arises? Now I need a volunteer. So Sandhya, did you get a pleasant feeling or an unpleasant feeling?
Pleasant feeling.
And when you thought about your mom, what kind of thoughts came to your mind?
The way she gave the love to me and all those things.
Okay, so
How
you
she
probably
took
thought,
care of me.
so she cooked for you, she sent you to school, she took care of you when you were sick. So all those thoughts are ingrained in your mind. So when you think about your mom, it's a pleasant feeling. And if your mom, all of you, if your mom asks for help, you feel like helping her. If she talks to you, you feel like talking to her. And when you think about your mom, it's pleasant. Now I want you to imagine a time, picture a scenario where your mom yelled at you, embarrassed you, completely scolded you. Now when you imagine that time, it's no longer that pleasant feeling. At that moment when you're being scolded, you're getting yelled at, you no longer had this feeling. Now you had anger. Now there's a conflict. So what's the reason there's a conflict now? Now are you thinking, my mom is the one who sent me to school? My mom is the one who raised me? My mom is the one who fed me? No, now when your mom is yelling at you, all you can think is, my mom isn't on my side. My mom doesn't want what I want. My mom is against me. So when that happens, you don't feel like helping your mom. You don't feel like talking to your mom. Maybe your mom says something and you walk away like you didn't hear. And when you think about your mom, it's not a pleasant feeling, it's anger. So why is there a difference? So let's look. So when we thought at first, we were thinking our mom is the one who raised us, fed us, clothed us, sent us to school. We were able to, if she needed help, we'd feel like helping her. If she wanted to talk, we would feel like talking to her. And when we thought about our mom, it's pleasant. So what's there? There's loving kindness by body, speech, and mind. And then in the second scenario, what happened? We thought our mom is against us. Our mom doesn't want what we want. She's not on my side. As soon as we thought that, what happened? We don't feel like helping her. We don't feel like talking to her. And it's unpleasant. There's anger now. So what's happening here? According to the sutta, what did we lose? We lost this factor. So this wasn't there. We lost loving kindness, in the first scenario, we have loving kindness. That means automatically we have this one. Right? You can't come to loving kindness without the first one. And in the second scenario, what happened? We lost this. So this was gone. Why? Because this was gone. So these first two factors were both missing. What's the reason they were missing? The reason is, in this scenario, what did we think? Good qualities. In this scenario, what did we think? Bad qualities. Now to understand that again, I'll give you another scenario. Imagine a butterfly now. Think about a butterfly, the qualities of a butterfly. And again, I'll use Sandhya as the volunteer. When you think about a butterfly, is it a pleasant feeling or an unpleasant feeling?
Pleasant feeling.
And when you think about a butterfly, how would you describe a butterfly?
It's a very innocent animal, so it's beautiful.
Innocent, beautiful, colorful. Now I want you to think, all of you, to think about a mosquito. Now when you think about a mosquito, do you get that same feeling? Now how would you describe a mosquito? Would you say colorful, beautiful, innocent? No, what would you say? You would say annoying, bothersome, blood-sucking. So now ask yourself, or I ask you, have you ever intentionally killed a butterfly? Raise your hands if you killed a butterfly. No one's killed a butterfly. Now ask yourself, have you ever intentionally, on purpose, killed a mosquito? And you don't have to answer, I already know the answer. So what's the difference here? Why is it we killed one animal but not the other? So we come back to the same scenario. In this one, when we thought about the butterfly, what happened? We thought beautiful, graceful, colorful, innocent, good qualities. As we did that, we didn't feel like killing it. We had loving kindness by body. You all said good things. You all thought good things. You had loving kindness by speech. And when you think about a butterfly, it's pleasant. There's loving kindness by mind. But the mosquito, what happened? We thought annoying, bothersome, blood-sucking. We thought bad qualities. When we thought bad qualities, what happened? We lost loving kindness by body. We killed it. We said bad things. I bet none of you thought mosquitoes help the ecosystem, even though they are crucial to that. So then we said only bad qualities came to our mind, only said bad things. So we lost loving kindness by speech. And when we think about a mosquito, it's unpleasant. So based on that, what happened? In this scenario, when we think good qualities, we have loving kindness by body, speech, and mind because we have respect and obedience. But in the other scenario, when we think about a mosquito, we ended up killing it. Why? Because we didn't have respect and obedience for the mosquito. So none of these get fulfilled. There's no chance. But in this one, we have a chance for these to get fulfilled. Now ask yourself, or I ask you, is it the fault of the butterfly? Or is it the fault of the mosquito that's happening? Whose fault is this? The fault is ours. Why? Because it's not the butterfly that determines whether we end up killing it or not. It's not the mosquito that determines whether we end up killing it or not. It's this part. Whether we recollect good or whether we recollect bad. Based on that, something becomes pleasant to us. When it's pleasant to us, we get respect and obedience for it. When we get respect and obedience for it, we get the factor of proper conduct or loving kindness by body, speech, and mind. Just think for a moment about someone in your life you dislike. Immediately, bad qualities will come to mind, not good qualities. Why? Because every time we see that person, we think bad things about them. Every time we hear that person's name, we think bad things about them. So the more we think bad qualities, the more unpleasant that person becomes. the more you lose respect and obedience for them. The more you lose loving kindness by body, speech, and mind for them. It doesn't become genuine anymore. So then we understand that really the beginning to this foundation is to be able to recollect good qualities. If someone can recollect good qualities, then they're able to come to this, respect and obedience. If they can come to respect and obedience, then they can practice genuine loving kindness by body, speech, and mind. So the foundation becomes recollecting good qualities. Does that make sense? So then, I don't know if you remember, we said what we have to do is, at the very beginning we said, this Noble Eightfold Path, in another way you can say, is a path to remove defilements. And a path to remove defilements means a path to getting rid of anger, getting rid of jealousy, getting rid of ill will, getting rid of wanting to hurt others, wanting to take revenge on others. So I want you to take this analogy as a pond. Imagine there's a pond, okay? And this pond is full of dirt, full of garbage. And this pond is like our mind. It's full of impure things. And what are those impure things? Those are defilements. So this mind gets impure by these things, by anger, jealousy, ill will, wanting to take revenge, erasing others' good qualities, and so on. So what we want to do is clean this pond. Why? Someone with a developed mind is someone who has a clean pond, has a clean mind. Now, in order to do this, what do we have to do first? In order for someone to clean this pond or to get rid of this garbage, what's the first step? The first step is they have to know the pond is dirty. They have to know there's garbage in the pond. Like, can someone remove any garbage from a pond that they don't even know exists? That's not possible. So the first thing that someone has to do is to know, hey, there's a pond and there's garbage in it. Does that make sense? So in the same way, if someone wants to make their mind pure or to clean their mind, what's the first step they have to do? They have to understand, hey, my mind is impure. There's dirt in my mind. There's anger, there's jealousy, all these things in my mind that make it impure. Does that make sense? So then imagine someone thinks, okay, I want to make my mind pure. I want to get rid of all the garbage. And they go to a forest. Now imagine you guys, you get tired of living at home. You get tired of your kids bothering you, with your spouse nagging at you. You get tired of paying bills and you all leave, and now you all live in a little hut in the forest. Okay? Now, do you get angry? You're living all by yourself. You get food. Everything's taken care of. Now, does anger arise as much? No, why? You can't get angry at rocks. Now, do you end up breaking your precepts? Do you end up lying to people? No, you can't lie to trees. So then you can think, hey, I've gotten rid of anger. My precepts don't break. I've cleaned my pond. My pond is clean now. Can't someone think like this? Someone can think like this. Why? They think I don't get angry anymore. My precepts don't break. My pond must be really, really clean. But in reality, when someone does this, what they have done is they haven't cleaned their pond. What they've done is they've gotten rid of the chance to get angry. They've gotten rid of the chance to break their precepts. So what they've really done is they've put a blindfold on. And now they think, hey, I don't get angry. I don't have jealousy. I don't have ill will. But the garbage is still there. The garbage hasn't changed. No one has removed the garbage, but he puts a blindfold on and he can't see the pond anymore. So he thinks, my pond's clean. I can't see it. No problem for me. So understand that going and isolating yourself is not the answer to getting rid of defilements. Just because no matter how long you live alone, no matter how long you do that, your defilements will still be there. Otherwise, all you have to do is lock someone up in a room and just give them food, give them a washroom, and then they'll be enlightened at the end of it. So the world doesn't work that way. You can't just purify your mind like that. So then when we live in the city, when we live with others, when we have to interact with other people, they do all kinds of stupid things, all kinds of nonsense. And to give you an example, imagine you guys are driving and someone cuts you off. Let's say this bad driver, he's on his phone, he cuts you off and does something stupid. Now, normally what happens? Normally our entire trip is ruined and we think, who gave this guy a license? Who gave this guy a car? Someone should call the police, take this guy's car away. And the entire ride, we yell at that person. And we tell others, today I was coming home from work and this crazy guy cut me off and he did this, this, and this. And then we share that story and we increase our anger. But at that moment, when that person cuts us off, when that person does something stupid and gets us angry, what is he really doing? He's showing us, hey, your pond is dirty. Why? Because that person is showing us you have anger in your mind. Right now, there's anger. There's a garbage in your mind. So only someone who knows that there's garbage in their mind has the chance to remove garbage, has the chance to clean their minds. Does that make sense? The first step to purifying someone's mind is to understand that their mind is impure. If someone thinks their mind is clean, then they can't ever there's done. There's nothing else to do. If someone says, there's one there's one lady who came and told us, so unless I don't get angry, it doesn't happen to me. No matter what happens, I don't get angry. So then I said, well, your job is done then. I can't teach you anything. You don't get angry. You're done. Your problem solved. Why are you here? You don't get angry? Then what's there to fix? So then someone who's in that mentality thinking, hey, I have nothing else to do, then they can't ever solve a problem. Why? They don't have a problem. They don't have anger. So they're done. So then the first step, understand, is knowing that there's impurities in our mind. So when someone cuts us off, what are they doing? They're helping us to see that our mind is impure, that our mind has some garbage in it. So this person, when they cut us off, they're helping us. They're showing us that the pond is dirty. Well, if this person wasn't here, if we were all by ourselves, like living in a hut, then we wouldn't know that there's dirt there. So when someone cuts us off, when someone does something stupid, and we get angry, the person who did that stupid thing, the person who got us angry, is actually helping us. He's showing us our mind is impure. Then isn't that a good quality of that person? Isn't that something they did to help us? Why? If we were all by ourselves, we would never know our mind is impure. So then, no matter who is in the world, answering that first question, when we live with people that don't always do good things, then we have the chance to think this person is showing us our mind is angry. So when a mosquito comes into our room, we might not like the mosquito, but if it irritates us and we see that we have irritation in our minds, that mosquito was the reason you saw that. So then that's a good quality of the mosquito. That's a benefit. If it wasn't there, we wouldn't see that their mind was impure at that moment. So then when you think in that way, there is no one in this world that doesn't have a good quality. Everyone in this world, every being in this world has a good quality. Why? Either they help us to practice the Dhamma, or they show us that our mind is impure. So you can't say this person is only bad, this person doesn't have any good qualities. No matter what, there are people that show us our mind is dirty, our mind is impure. So only then do we get the chance to ever clean our minds. Now the question comes, so I hope that answered that question. Don't worry, I'll answer the other ones as well. Then the question comes, how do we practice this? How do we practice this in real life? So the way to practice this is to do acts of loving kindness by body, speech, and mind. It's very easy. But in order to create a foundation of genuine loving kindness, we should get used to a thinking pattern. So right now, you guys all probably take out the trash, hopefully, and you guys don't live in like some garbage pile. But when you take out the trash, from now on, try to come to a mindset thinking, may everyone in my house be happy. May they be well. So now you're not just taking out the trash. There's a difference here. Now when you take out the trash, you create a thought in your mind of wanting others to be happy, of wanting them to be well. So you don't have to think, may all beings be well. You can just think, may everyone in my house, everyone living here be happy. If you're living with your parents, you can think, may my parents be happy, and take out the trash. If you're cleaning the washroom, if you're cleaning the toilet, what do you have to do? All you have to do is think, may everyone in my house, may all the people that use this toilet be happy. May they be well. Now you're practicing loving kindness and genuinely trying to create a thought of metta. So you're doing something that helps someone, that brings someone happiness. You're doing something that brings someone happiness. When you go to the trash and it's full, isn't it uncomfortable for you? So when you empty the trash, you're bringing someone happiness. When you clean the toilet and you go to the washroom and the toilet is dirty, it's uncomfortable. So when you do that, you're creating happiness for someone. And along with that, you're no longer just doing that action. You're creating a thought now of wanting others to be well. If you're cooking your kids dinner, you can think, may my children be happy and well. So now in your daily routine, incorporate this idea, incorporate a thought of loving kindness to the things you do already, to the actions you do already, getting your kids ready for school, helping your spouse with something, helping your children with their homework, whatever it is you do, incorporate an idea, an intention of wanting someone else to be well, wanting someone else to be happy. And as you practice this, you might get the idea, why is it always me? Why am I always the one taking out the trash? This doesn't make any sense. Why am I the only one practicing the Dhamma? Why am I the only one who's doing this? They don't even know what this sutta is. They've never heard of this anymore. But none of that is important to us. Why? Because if someone is truly practicing this, then they come to the mindset, why? Why should I not set aside what I wish to do and do what they wish to do? So if you're the one who's constantly taking out the trash, you're practicing this. Why? It's not like taking out the trash and yelling at everyone saying, why is it always me? Everyone else has arms and legs. They should be able to take out the trash. If you do it like that, then this is not going to work. But if you genuinely do it for happiness, with the idea that you want someone else to be happy, then you're actually practicing this. You're setting aside what you want to do. Does anyone here want to take out trash every day? No, you might want to relax and watch a show or do something or read a book or whatever it is you do. But at that moment, when you do that, you're setting aside what you want to do. You're practicing loving kindness openly and privately. And you think this will lead to my welfare. When you take out the trash, you're developing a good quality. You're developing metta now. You're also helping someone else. That karma will come to you. The person who just sits there and does nothing, that he won't collect that benefit. So when you do this, don't think, why is it always me? Why am I the only one practicing this? This is something for your own benefit. The Dhamma is there for yourself, not for anyone else. If you practice that, it'll be for you. Does that make sense? So practice this, develop this week. There's a lot more to this course, but as a starting point, develop those two foundations, which is recollecting good qualities. If you don't do that, no matter how much you try to practice loving kindness, it won't be genuine. So even the person who cuts you off, does something stupid, no matter who that person is, always see that good quality, which is they're showing us our mind is impure. When you think in that way, you can get rid of conflicts in your life. So don't come to the mindset, well, so the world isn't just roses. Some people they're truly evil. If you think in that way, then your problem's not going to get solved. You're going to be angry for the rest of your life. There's nothing I can do. But if you think in this way, if you think everyone has a good quality, then you have the chance to not get into a conflict. You have the chance to get rid of anger. You have the chance to build a good, strong foundation. So don't go looking. The Buddha says, if someone goes looking for fair and so justice and injustice in this world, all they will come to is tired. All they will become is tired. All they will become is weary. Why? There's no such thing as justice and injustice in this world. There's only cause and effect. When you take out the trash every day, it might not be fair, but you will get that karma in return. You're creating good karma for yourself. And someone might say something bad about you, but if you don't say something back, then you're practicing patience, you're practicing recollecting good qualities, you're practicing the Dhamma. So for this week, try to incorporate this idea, that is, wishing someone else genuine happiness when you practice something, either by speech or by body. So if you open the door for someone, just think, may the person walking through this door be happy. If you wish someone good morning, create a thought right after, may this person truly have a good morning. May this person be happy. And get used to that. That's all you have to do this week. Just practice this. And then along with this, you can incorporate loving kindness meditation. So loving kindness meditation is very, very powerful and beneficial meditation that we can do, which is now you're practicing this genuinely. So you're practicing genuinely wanting others to be happy. So now you have a root and a foundation to develop loving kindness. And we'll practice some loving kindness meditation. But does anyone have any other questions that are unanswered so far? So someone asked, it says, why should I not set aside what I wish to do and what they wish to do? What if they want to not practice the Dhamma? What if what they want to do doesn't match to the Dhamma? So it doesn't mean, so let's say you guys are gonna go read, let's say you guys are gonna go meditate, and then someone says, hey, there's a new season out, let's go watch it, or let's go watch a movie. Then you say, go by yourself, I don't want to come. That's not talking about that. This is talking about when you have the chance to develop your mind, because taking out the trash when you don't want to is a benefit. You're developing your mind. You're doing something beneficial that will lead to your welfare. So when you have that chance and you think, nah, I'm too tired, I don't want to do this, I'm tired of practicing this, I'm going to go just watch a show by myself, then that's not setting aside what you wish to do. Then that's actually just giving into craving, giving into that defilement. Does that make sense? So it's not just if they want to practice non-Dhamma, you go along with it. This is, you practice the Dhamma, but when you get the chance to develop a good quality, you take that chance. Then someone asked, how do you develop respect and obedience for someone like Devadatta Swami? Well, Devadatta has a good quality. If Devadatta is the reason we have lots of these suttas. Devadatta is the reason, the beginning for a lot of the Dhamma ceremonies that the Buddha taught. It's a huge benefit. Devadatta was a huge benefit to us. If Devadatta wasn't there, we wouldn't know a lot of things. So Devadatta, there's a symbol of teaching. Devadatta goes for refuge at the end to the Supreme Buddha. And then at the end of that eon in hell, he's going to become a private Buddha. So he's far ahead than any of us here. Does anyone here know that in their next life they're going to attain Nibbana? For sure, Devadatta is going to do that. It's said in the Milindus questions. So he's far ahead than any one of us. And Devadatta's good qualities, he showed us. If we recall an incident where he tried to kill the Supreme Buddha and think, hey, Devadatta, we get mad at him, then we think, hey, Devadatta is helping us right now. Why? He's showing us we have anger. Then someone says, I understand how these people help us see the dirt in us, but is there no boundary setting in these scenarios? If I let them do what they want and set aside what I want to do, am I not entertaining harm towards me and not setting a healthy boundary? So it's very important. That's what I was going to teach in the next week's class as well. Practicing loving kindness does not mean you associate with everyone. Repeat that after me. Everyone say that. Practicing loving kindness does not mean that I associate with everyone. The Supreme Buddha never said practice loving kindness and talk with everyone, help everyone. Devadatta, or the perfect example is Devadatta. Devadatta ordained under the Supreme Buddha. The Supreme Buddha is the one who gave him ordination. But the Supreme Buddha never said, hey Devadatta, let's go on an alms round together. Hey Devadatta, let's go meditate together. Did the Supreme Buddha say that? No. But did the Supreme Buddha have hatred towards Devadatta? No. So then having loving kindness and associating with someone is completely two different things. If you're walking down the street wanting everyone to be happy and you see a person robbing a bank, are you going to go up and ask them, hey, how's your day going? Do you need any help? No, you should run away and call the police. So practicing loving kindness and associating with everyone is two different things. Don't get those confused. If someone is a bad influence, if someone doesn't help us to develop in this Dhamma, if someone takes us to a bad side, that means there's someone who's, we say, 𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗁, or they help us develop bad qualities, then you should abandon that person. You shouldn't associate with that person. The Dhamma path is completely founded on 𝗏𝗏𝗪𝗁. That means 𝗾𝗤𝗪𝗔, noble friends, not on anyone else, okay? So just because you're kind to everyone doesn't mean you associate with them. I hope that answer makes sense. And then someone said, so how can we recollect good qualities of someone who is constantly abusive? How can we have metta toward them while protecting our own mind and body from their hurt? Well, again, I answer this question with, first, don't just think metta is the answer. If someone is, let's say there's someone in a very bad scenario where they're getting physically abused, then the answer first should be to get out of that scenario. The Supreme Buddha teaches, if you're walking down the road and you see an elephant on the road, if you see a snake on the road, if you see a wild horse on the road, the Buddha never says, walk towards that snake, spreading loving kindness. May the snake be well. May the snake be happy. The Buddha never teaches that. The Buddha says, take a different path, walk a different direction. Don't go towards danger. So if you're in a scenario like that, first see, how can I get out of this scenario? How can I remove myself from this abusive situation? Then you can practice metta. That's completely separate. Practicing metta and that is completely separate. But none of us are arahants. So first, we should always try to see, how do I get rid of this situation first, practically? And then you try to get rid of anger towards that person. Why? Because there's going to be resentment. This person hit me. This person abused me. This person struck me. Whatever it is. So don't just think metta is the answer, like developing metta mentally is the answer. Sometimes it's changing our habits, the way we react to things. For example, there was one 𝗏𝗏𝗪𝗏 who, her husband would physically hit her every time he drinks or gets upset. And then what she would do is, every time her husband did that, she would have patience. That means she wouldn't say anything. She would just her situation was different. At that time, there was no plan set by the government to help someone in an abusive state. She had 2 children, so she couldn't just walk away. This is just her perspective, I'm telling you. And what she did was, every time her husband was abused, she would have patience. But whenever he did something kind, whenever he said a kind word, whenever he did something, or whenever he got her a gift, she would show her appreciation and show her love towards her husband in that moment. Then after a long time, after 7 years of that practice of spreading loving kindness or practicing loving kindness, when she received loving kindness, her husband's behavior over time changed. At the end of 7 years, he never struck her again. He would help her by making her benches to practice meditation, by taking her to the monastery, all these things, because she by herself practiced this alone. So the way someone practices this could be different. Practicing metta I mean, there's no other answer. Practicing hatred isn't going to get your problem solved. The first step is practically getting rid of that situation, distancing yourself from that, and then practicing getting rid of anger and hatred that's there within us. I hope that answers your question. And then someone said, 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏 won't we crash and get sick if we just keep doing all the chores? There are so many moms who are suffering physically and in reality because of this. They're getting sick, no sleep, too busy to feel joy in a busy life. So this isn't talking about you should be the only one doing chores. Don't get that idea wrong as well. This is talking about practically someone doing this. So this means, let's say you go to the washroom and it's dirty. Most people think, okay, the next person is going to clean. If you go to any public place, like for example, let's say people come to the monastery and use the washroom. They use the washroom, their job is done, and then they leave. This is talking about thinking about the next person. So imagine there's two people and they're using common cups. So when someone comes to a common place, there's common cups, right? Let's say someone drinks in that one of those cups, uses a cup, and then thinks, hey, I used this cup, I should wash it. And he washes his cup and puts it away. But the second person uses a common cup and he thinks, who's going to use this cup next? Another person, another stranger is going to come and use this cup. I'm going to make sure this cup is clean for that person. Which of those two people have a better chance of developing their mind? Who has more loving kindness in that scenario? Is it the person just thinking, I use this cup, I should clean it? Or the person thinking, someone else is going to use this cup, I should make sure it's clean for them? That second person has a thought, has an idea that someone else is going to find happiness from this. That person has a thought of loving kindness. So when you practice chores, it isn't just doing the chore because you have to. This is genuinely trying to practice developing a good quality. So there's a limit to how much you can do. The Supreme Buddha never says, sweep the monastery all day. That's all you have to do. So there's a time. So monks, for example, when they wake up, one of the first things they do is they sweep. That's to keep the monastery clean. Then in the afternoon, they again sweep once more. In most monasteries, that's usually how it works. They don't spend their entire day cleaning, even though leaves fall. That's not what the Supreme Buddha taught. There should be a balance. So the Buddha never said, do only chores, do only this. You have to find a balance. So if someone is having difficulty doing that, they should talk to their spouse, they should talk to their children. I mean, if you have kids, if you're a mom, the question says moms, get your kids to do some work. Don't just do all the work. They have arms and legs. Make them wash dishes, make them take out the trash. That's your job as a mom, to teach kids to do something useful, to help them develop a good quality. Not just to have kids, to say, I have kids. But if they're young, I mean, you're going to have to, that's the lay life, I guess. And then someone said, 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏, is there a place for loving kindness for ourselves? How do we find a balance? There's someone who, loving kindness means you're spreading loving kindness. If someone hates themselves, how can they have loving kindness for someone else? You can only give something you have. So if someone dislikes themselves, has no loving kindness for themselves, doesn't appreciate themselves, they can't ever give loving kindness. They have no loving kindness. That's like wanting to give everyone $1 million when you have no money. It doesn't work that way. First, you have to have loving kindness for yourself. First, you appreciate yourself, and then you can practice spreading it. Then someone says, what if they think we're being clingy to people while we are being genuinely kind to them? So if they find your kindness uncomfortable, then you don't have to practice kindness by associating with them. You can just practice kindness mentally, by speech. You don't have to say, like, do you go up to everyone and say, hey, I got you a rose? Hey, I got you a gift for Christmas? Don't do that. You just say good morning and you walk away. So you don't have to associate everyone with, like, same example with 𝗏𝗵𝗲. Like the Buddha never said, even though he had loving kindness, he never said, let's go for alms together. Let's go meditate together. Hey, have your kuti next to my kuti. The Buddha never said that. So don't think that's the only way we can practice loving kindness, by forcing our kindness on them. That's not a good answer. And then someone said, the Supreme Buddha said, okay, someone said the Buddha said that accept defilements only if wise ones who has observed us day and night showed us our defilements. Mahendra, I don't understand the question. Could you rephrase that question? And then someone said, how can I know if someone takes advantage of over our kindness? Do I need to be kind all the time for the same person? So again, practicing kindness is not the same as associating with everyone. If there's someone who you are kind towards, but is scamming you, is taking advantage of you, then you should be wise and smart and know how to associate with that person. So just because, otherwise, if a billion people come begging for food, we have to give food for a billion people. We can't do that. It's not practical. So we say, in this monastery, we don't do that. That's a simple answer. Does that mean we hate all the people that come and beg for food? No. Does that mean we don't help people? No. There's a limit practically to what someone can do. So you should understand that limit. That's on you to understand that. I can't say, you can't, don't, like, how can I say, okay, in this moment do this, in this moment do that? I'm not going to call you on your phone and say, okay, thinking this way now. You guys should be wise and practice that according to the situation. In Sinhala, we say, Tanata sudusu nuana. That means the wisdom appropriate for the situation. That is something you guys should develop. I can't give you wise consideration. You have to develop that on your own. And then someone asked, so I said, does pancha nivarana, the root of all defilements, as discourse in the Avijja Sutta? I don't understand the question either. Are you asking, is pancha nivarana the root of all defilements? Because we can say the root of all defilements is the root of all suffering, which is craving. If we didn't have craving, defilements wouldn't arise. If someone gets rid of craving, then all those defilements go away. So I guess when some mistakes happen, even after practicing metta and helping others for a long time, the mind breaks down feeling guilty. How do you solve this problem? When some mistakes happen even after. I mean, if you didn't genuinely do a mistake and it's an actual mistake, then you didn't do anything bad. Like, if you make a mistake, it's a mistake, right? That means it's not on purpose. Otherwise, you'll be intentionally hurting someone or hurting something. If it's a mistake, then you already know there's no intention there. That means you didn't get any bad karma. So that would fall under remorse. You feel guilty over something that you did. You should abandon that. That's a defilement. That's something that hinders us to develop the mind. That's one of the pancha nivana. That's one of the 5 hindrances, remorse. So understand this is something that prevents me from developing the mind, prevents me from cleaning the pond, prevents me from abandoning defilement, and see it in that way and remove it. And I think Mahendra has a question. You can give him the chance to ask 𝗙liche.
Yes, Vante, thank you for giving me a chance. My question was like in the Dhamma, in one of the verse, Buddha has said like there is no one who has not been criticized and blamed. So there never will be in the future also. So and also like in another verse, like he has mentioned like if the wise praise him or like they showed him his defilement, then you should consider and you should correct it. So I was like wondering like so if like if some people like if they have their own defilement showing us our anger like those kind of impurities, then how do we understand this?
So when I said they show us our defilements, it doesn't mean that they come up and say, hey, you're angry. It means there's a scenario that happens in our day-to-day life. For example, someone cutting us off, someone writing a mean comment on our picture, whatever it is, where we get angry at that situation. So at that moment, if that person has no good quality that we can recollecting that they're showing us we have a defilement is a good quality. So that's something we can practice to abandon a defilement at that moment. That's what I meant there. So in that verse you're talking about, the Supreme Buddha says, even if a fool praises you, don't take it as something important. But if even a wise person criticizes you, then you should consider what they're saying, because that helps you to develop. So if a wise person shows us a fault, then we should see, hey, this is a person who has virtue, has uh, uh, wisdom. Then you examine yourself. But just because a foolish person shows us or criticizes or praises us, then we shouldn't immediately get affected. Does that make
Yes,
sense?
understand. Thank you.
Okay.
Bhante.
Someone said, I don't know the reference for this, but I have heard that the Buddha said if someone is harming you, then tell them nicely and explain not to harm you. If that doesn't work, say sternly. If that doesn't work, play a trick to them to understand. If that doesn't work, then let them go. I have no idea what sutta that's from. I've never heard this. But in 𝗪𝗂𝗶 Sutta in Majjhima Nikaya, the Supreme Buddha says, even if thieves are sawing you from limb to limb, cutting your hands and legs off, then spread loving kindness. If someone gets angry at that moment, then they're not practicing what the Supreme Buddha taught. The Supreme Buddha says that. They're not practicing what I've taught. So according to that sutta, it doesn't really match what this says. So I don't know where that reference is. I think you should, if you try to find it, let me know if you find a discourse where it says that. Does anyone else have a question? Helga, did you have a question?
Yes, Bhante, thank you. I would like to ask, so I noticed that anger arises if so I noticed that anger arises when people don't keep the precepts. For example, they kill animals, they are hunters or fishing, or so this kind of people, when I meet them or see them, I realize that anger arises toward them. How to practice metta in this case?
So at that moment, really anger shouldn't arise. What should arise is compassion. Why? Because, and I'll teach this next week as well, when they kill, they're practicing something that will lead to their own suffering, to their own unhappiness for a long time. So as they do that, why would we get angry at them? We should feel sad for them. We should feel bad for them. For example, when the Supreme Buddha saw Angulimala had already killed 1,000 people. Did the Supreme Buddha get angry at that moment, or did he have compassion, thinking, I should save this person? So when someone breaks their precepts, the Supreme Buddha never said, oh, this person breaks his precepts, he's a bad person, don't associate, get angry at that person. The Supreme Buddha says, no matter who that person is, always practice kindness, always try to have a mind of loving kindness towards that person. So in one sutta, and we'll discuss that as well, Arhat Sariputta says, you should always see the quality in everyone. Maybe someone's speech he doesn't lie, he doesn't say bad words. Then focus on that. Don't focus on his bodily actions. If someone has good bodily actions, but he lies and he says bad words, then focus on his bodily actions. If someone has neither, then look on him with compassion as someone stranded in a desert. So when you see someone breaking their precepts, then don't get upset at them. Otherwise, everyone who comes to our monastery, we should get angry at them. Right? So don't practice like that. Practice always seeing the good in people.
And if I say this kind of things, should I encourage those people to not do that, or it's better to stay silent?
So it depends on the person. Like there's, for example, Arahant Sariputta as a practice in one of the Jataka stories, he goes around giving the precepts to all the people, even hunters, even people who fish. And then the Supreme Buddha doesn't praise that. The Supreme Buddha there says this is because he had a practice of this, of giving everyone the precepts, and it's not just this life he did that. But the Buddha says, always try to see the person, judge the person. If they have the wisdom to understand why it's wrong, then try to teach them. But if after you explain to them, then they get angry with you, or even before you explain, they seem like a character who wouldn't understand or someone who would get angry with us, then just stay silent. You can't fix the whole world. Our goal is, with the Dhamma, fix ourselves.
I already lost more jobs because of this.
Yeah, so then we have to take that karma with us, right? So always think this, whatever we practice is for us, for our own. Does it make sense? Okay. So I'm assuming, so it's already a bit late. How about next week? So this week, your homework, I should say, is to practice those same things that you're doing, practice those bodily and verbal acts of loving kindness. And with that action and with that speech, add a thought, which is, may this person be well, may this person be happy. So if you think you might forget, then write that down and practice that this week. Okay, so practice thinking, may these people be happy, or whoever you can think a thought of loving kindness to. And then next week, we'll discuss how to practice, how to incorporate that to our meditation. If you know loving kindness meditation, practice that daily. And along with that, you can develop your meditation further because you'll be genuinely practicing this. Does that make sense? So then we'll end the program there since it's already 9:30. Today we collected lots of merit by practicing or learning the Supreme Buddha's teaching. All the merit we collected, we share with all the devas. May all the devas rejoice in this merit. May they provide righteous protection to all these lay devotees and their families. May all the devas have the good fortune to escape from this long journey of samsara. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. We share this merit with our teacher, 𝗙𝗵𝗪 Lokuswami, who taught us the Dhamma in this era, with 𝗙𝗵𝗪 Rohanikiti, with all the monks of Mahamevnawa, all the monks training in the Buddha's dispensation. May all the monks rejoice in this merit and realize the Four Noble Truths in this Gautama Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. We share all the merit we collected with all these lay devotees and their families and loved ones. May all these lay devotees be happy, healthy, and well. May you all have long lifespan. May you all be able to realize the Four Noble Truths and escape from this long journey of birth and death. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Everyone chant with me. Kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katang acchayang kama me bhante bhuri panya tathagata. Kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katang acchayang kama me dhamma sanditthika kalika. Kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katang acchayang kama me sangha punyakhetang anuttara. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. I will chant a blessing for you all. Abhivadana sīlissa niccang vaddāpaccāyino cattaro dhamma vaddanti āyuvanno sukham balang āyurārogya sampatti sagga sampatti mevaca ato nibbāna sampatti eminate samijjatu. May you all be happy, healthy, and well. 𝗘 සරණයි නමෝ බුද්ධාය.
Also, signs and maybe of forgiveness from oneself.
Okay.
Dear devotees, let's go to the floor and worshipping Asana now. 𝗏𝗏 වන්දාමි බන්තේ මයා කතම් පුඤ්ඤං සාමිනා අනුමෝදිතබ්බං
සාදු අනුමෝදාමි.
සාමිනා කතම් පුඤ්ඤං මයිහං දාතබ්බං
සාදු අනුමෝදිත.
සාදු සාදු අනුමෝදාමි ෝකාස ద్వාරත්තේන කතං සබ්බං අච්චයං කමතමේ බන්තේ
කමාමි කමිතබ්බං.
ෝකාස කමාමි බන්තේ ဒ ුතියම්පි ෝකාස කමාමි බන්තේ තතියම්පි ෝකාස කමාමි බන්තේ.
You all be happy and well. 𝗘 සරණයි නමෝ බුද්ධාය.